All right, what we're going to do now in After Effects is examine the timeline work area, and we're going to look at some of the options for manipulating and editing the timeline and how to better control that region of your After Effects interface. So here we are back in After Effects, and we had drawn a shape and placed it on the screen. What we're going to do now, let's add a couple more layers. I'm going to open up the video and drag the video and drop that onto the timeline. Notice that I put it underneath the shape layer so you can see it's behind the shape layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the timeline area. So here's my timeline area. And I can scrub through and I can see the video playing underneath the green circle. And we already kind of talked a little bit about how you can control the area that you're looking at. By default, when you hit the space bar, plays through the whole sequence and then it loops continuously, because lots of times you're doing little bitty micro actions and then you want to check it. I can refine an area. Let's say that I only want to work in a certain area. I can grab this work area and I can drag this in like this and just work on a certain part of my project, all right? So it's only going to cycle through that region, okay? And I can grab this, I can move this along, and then I can change how I'm looking at the time by grabbing that bar across the top. If I want, I can, oftentimes when you're working, you may need to do what's called trim work area. In other words, I've got a whole bunch of video on this layer and I may not need to edit it or use it. It's just taking up space. I can go up to composition and I go trim comp to work area. So when I click trim comp to work area, the area that I had defined between the two bars is now the whole video layer. Now I can add more content on if I want by going back up to composition, and then I go to composition settings and I just add more time on. So right now the duration's 1 minute and 27 seconds. I'll set that to 2:30, 2:40, click OK. And you'll see that I've extended the length of the video. And then I also have to grab this and drag this end to actually extend it. So right now it would stop, but I have to grab this bar and drag it to make it back to its original length. Now, let's look over here on the left. First, down here on this section of your timeline, you have a video, a little eyeball, and that shows you whether an object is visible or invisible. I can turn the objects on and off by clicking on it. If this had audio, I could turn I think the bottom layer may have audio. I can turn the audio off and on. The next one is shy. Let's make another circle. I'm going to select that shape layer, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to use a keyboard command or Control D to copy that shape. And then I'll move it over. And I'll change the color. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to change the name of these layers. So if I click on that layer and make it active, I hit enter, and then I can give it a new name. And I'll do that with the top layer. Click into the layer, and hit enter, and give it a new name. So I can name my layers and keep them active in that way. There's a little tab right here. I can click there and I can change the color of my layers. And that's helpful if I have, let's say, a bunch of layers in my project that are all text layers. So I want to control my content by making all those text layers the same color. The next element over is the hide button. So what I can do is if I click, it will hide all the other elements except for the one I click on. And so that's very helpful when I want to emphasize or work on just one thing. After that, I have a lock, and the idea with the lock is that I can lock the layer and keep it safe from me accidentally editing it. Now, what we'll do in upcoming sessions is we're going to go through these modifications down here, like contents and the transform menu, and then we'll go through these buttons over here, like motion blur, 3D, and the pick whip. We'll go through all that later as the course goes on. So it's just a little bit of understanding of how the timeline works. And just be patient. We're getting to the point where we have enough under our belt to feel comfortable with doing some animation.